Cosette's Enchanted Journeys. I am your host, Jenny the Genie, and I am so delighted that you could join my sweet friend Cosette the cat and myself today in our magic lamp. This is a really special place where we take off on enchanted journeys to read some really wonderful stories together, let our imaginations get activated and do some fun for us, and then we come back and we craft, or we play, or we go baking, or we do all kinds of fun and silly things together. It kind of depends on the story that we're reading, doesn't it, Cosette? Do you have a story picked out for us today? I think she does. Do you want to find out what it is? Wow, it looks like Cosette has picked out The Tale of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter. It's a wonderful springy time story. All the flowers and the garden is in bloom, and Peter Rabbit goes out looking for something good to eat. Oh, I shouldn't spoil it for you. Maybe we should go and read it together. Do you want to? Okay, I need your help to get out of my magic lamp. You can help me fly away on our magic carpet to a special place where we can share the story together. All you have to do, put your hands together, rub them like this, and say, I wish to go on an enchanted journey. Do it with me, ready? I wish to go on an enchanted journey, and away we go! Today's story, it's a classic. It's The Tale of Peter Rabbit by Beatrix Potter. I hope you enjoy it. Once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. They lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the root of a very big fir tree. Now, my dears, said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, you may go into the fields or down the lane, but do not go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there, and he was put in a pie by Mrs. McGregor. Now run along and don't get into mischief. I am going out. Then old Mrs. Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella and went through the woods to the baker's. She brought a loaf of brown bread and 5 currant buns. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. If Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail were good little bunnies, what do you think about Peter? But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGregor's garden and squeezed under the gate. First he ate some lettuce and some French beans, and then he ate some radishes. And then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley. Uh-oh. But around the end of the cucumber frame, who should he meet but Mr. McGregor? Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting young cabbages, but he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rake and calling, "Stop, thief!" Peter was dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. Uh-oh. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbages and the other shoe among the potatoes. After losing them, he ran on all 4 legs and went faster so that he might have gotten away if he had not unfortunately run into a gooseberry net and got caught by the large buttons on his jacket. It was a blue jacket with brass buttons, quite new. Peter gave himself up for lost and shed big tears, but his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows, who flew to him in great excitement and begged him to try and free himself. Mr. McGregor found a sieve which he intended to put on top of Peter, but Peter wiggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind him. Peter rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a watering can. It would have been a beautiful thing to hide in if it had not had so much water in it. Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed. Perhaps he was hidden under a flower pot. He began to turn them over carefully, looking under each. Suddenly, Peter sneezed. Achoo! Mr. McGregor was after him in no time. He tried to catch Peter, who jumped out of a window, upsetting 3 plants. The window was too small for Mr. McGregor, and he was tired of running after Peter. So he went back to his work. Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright. He had no idea which way to go. Also, he was very damp from sitting in a can. After a time, he began to wonder about, going lippity-lippity, not very fast, and looking all around. He found a door in the wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the woods. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She only shook her head at him. Peter began to cry. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently, he came to a pond. A white cat was staring at some goldfish. She sat very, very still. But now and then, the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, little Benjamin Bunny. I think the kitty would probably chase Peter if she spotted him. He went back toward the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Scritch, scratch, scratch, scritch. Peter scuttered underneath the bushes. But soon, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon a wheelbarrow and peeped over. The first thing he saw was Mr. McGregor hoeing onions. His back was turned toward Peter, and beyond him was the gate. Peter's found his way out. Peter got down very quietly off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could go, along a straight walk behind some blackberry bushes. Mr. McGregor caught sight of him at the corner, but Peter did not care. He slipped underneath the gate and was safe at last in the woods outside the garden. Mr. McGregor hung up the little jacket and the shoes as a scarecrow to frighten the blackbirds. Peter never stopped running or looking behind him until he got home to the big fir tree. He was so tired that he flopped down on a nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his clothes. It was the second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in 2 weeks. That evening, Peter was not very well. His mother put him to bed and made him some chamomile tea. She gave a dose of it to Peter. 1 tablespoon to be taken at bedtime, she said. But Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for supper. The end. Poor naughty little Peter. He was just so hungry he couldn't keep himself from going to Mr. McGregor's garden. You know what's funny is in this story, Peter never went for carrots. And I always thought that rabbits loved carrots best of all. I guess maybe not. But do you like carrots? Yeah, I like carrots too. I especially like them when it's a carrot cake or carrot cupcakes. Have you ever made carrot cupcakes before? Would you like to make some with me today? They're really, really simple to make and they taste really good, especially with some cream cheese frosting. Why don't you run and ask an adult if you can do a little baking with me today, and I'll go get ready in my kitchen as you get ready in yours, and together we'll make some delicious carrot cupcakes. Okay, you ready to make some carrot cake cupcakes? The first thing we're going to do is make sure we have a recipe picked out. You can use whichever recipe you like, but if you'd like to use the same one that I'm using, you can go to sugarspunrun.com and find carrot cake cupcake recipe. And this has 5 stars, so I bet it's going to taste pretty good. I've printed it out so I can follow along. And the other thing is to gather all your ingredients. I have a cupcake pan that I've sprayed with some spray so that when I fill it with my liners, they don't get stuck. And if any of the yummy cupcakes bubble over, it won't get stuck to the edges. I've got my vanilla extract, nutmeg, cinnamon, some salt. Of course, can't make carrot cupcakes without some carrots. I've got some vegetable oil, some eggs out on the counter, some milk, baking soda, baking powder, light brown sugar, some measuring glasses. I'm going to shred my carrots by hand. You could use a food processor with the help of a parent if you'd prefer. I've got some all-purpose flour and some sugar. So I think I've got pretty much everything I need. And I'm going to say up front that this recipe has a an additional recipe inside for a batch of cream cheese frosting. If you want to get really creative and make your own frosting, you can do that. It's a lot of fun to do. I'm cheating today. I'm going to just actually use cream cheese frosting from the store just to save a little bit of time and get these cupcakes ready to be eaten as soon as possible. Now I've got everything laid out and I've got my recipe and I've started heating up my oven to 350 degrees. So we're just gonna go ahead and get started by lining the cupcake pan with cupcake liners. Okay, and then I'm just gonna set that off to the side. Okay, next in a bowl, I'm going to mix together my flour, my sugar, my baking powder, baking soda, salt, cinnamon, nutmeg, flour, sugars, which includes my white sugar and my light brown sugar, baking soda, baking powder, salt, everything. It's all gonna get mixed together before we do anything else. So I'm gonna go ahead and start that. Now, if you have a KitchenAid mixer, you can use that. If not, you can just do it in a bowl by hand as well. So I'm gonna just do it in a bowl by hand so you can see how that would be done if you don't have a KitchenAid mixer. Okay, if you got your mixing bowl, the first thing we're gonna add is 1 1/4 cups flour. Just dump that right in. Then we're gonna add a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, so that's just your plain white sugar. Then we're gonna add a 1/2 cup of light brown sugar packed, and by packed they just mean push it down and get as much of that yummy brown sugar in there as you can. It kind of looks like you're making a sand castle, it's so packed tight. I'm gonna just whisk my flour and sugar together before I add anything else. It's gonna look like flour by the time it's all mixed together. You're not gonna see the sugars. And then you're ready to add your next ingredients. Next, we're gonna do baking soda and baking powder. My recipe calls for 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda. So I'm gonna make sure I grab the right one, baking soda, and I have a 1/2 teaspoon and a 1/4 teaspoon. I'm gonna use a 1/2 teaspoon. I'm gonna make sure it's only inside the cup part. And I'm gonna add a 1/4, because 1/2 plus 1/4 equals 3/4. So I'm gonna put that in there. Next, it asks for a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. So you make sure you have your baking powder. And same thing, just gonna kind of knock it off the sides, make sure it's only filling into the cup part. Next, we're gonna mix together the baking soda and baking powder, get that well blended. It asks for a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So we got my 1/2 teaspoon. Get my salt, add that. And we need a full teaspoon of cinnamon. So I've got a full teaspoon. My cinnamon, very carefully. Don't want to dump it in there. A little bit extra is okay. Okay, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. And we need a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. So we're gonna go back to our 1/4 size. We've got some nutmeg. Oh, uh-oh, don't wanna put all that in there. Just knock it back in. There we go. There we go. And it should blend in pretty well, just like our sugars, just like our baking soda and baking powder. You might see a little bit of brownish color now into the white. That's just our cinnamon and nutmeg doing their job. So those are our dry ingredients and they're all whisked together pretty well. Okay, the next step is our wet ingredients, which is gonna be our oils and our eggs and our vanilla extract and our milk. So first we're gonna stir in our oil, and I'm gonna use vegetable oil. You could also use avocado or canola oil if you have a preference. And I need 3/4 cups. I'm gonna go back to my glass measuring cup. I'm gonna whisk it around a little bit. Ooh, that's an interesting consistency now, isn't it? It's starting to get kind of hard to stir. It's starting to get some chunky lumps. Don't worry, the eggs are gonna help us with that, and so is the milk. It calls for 2 large eggs that are at room temperature. So I've had my eggs out this whole time while my oven was heating up, and I gathered all my other ingredients so they'd be at room temperature. So I'm gonna crack 2 eggs. After we've added our eggs one at a time, we're going to add in some vanilla extract and milk. We need 1.5 teaspoons of our vanilla extract. So I'm gonna use these two, 1.5. It's okay if you still have some residue left in there from your nutmeg and your cinnamon. It's just the same flavor, it's not gonna hurt anything. Vanilla pours out quick, so you wanna go nice and slow. And next we need our milk, and we need 2 tablespoons of milk. So I have these really fun, cute measuring cups that are actually piggies, and when they stack inside of each other, it makes one giant piggy. And the biggest one is my tablespoon piggy, so we're gonna use him. Whoop, choo. I'm not bothered if I get a little extra splash in there. It's gonna cook down, and it's gonna taste really good. Yeah, this is getting really thick, so I'm gonna switch from my whisk mixer, and I'm gonna get a rubber spatula. This is kind of our base. Now, what do we need to make carrot cake cupcakes? Well, carrots, of course. So my recipe says you can also add in walnuts or pecans if you want, but I plan on serving my carrot cakes, cupcakes to people that have nut allergies. So I'm not gonna add nuts, but if you like to add nuts, you can. What we're gonna need is 1.5 cups of grated carrots. So I'm gonna go ahead and wash some of these carrots and get out get my measuring cup ready, and I'm gonna grate them right into this measuring cup. Okay, if you're using whole carrots like me and you've just washed them, you wanna dry them off really well so you don't get that excess water and moisture into your carrot cake recipe. So just kind of roll them around in a towel, a clean kitchen towel. That'll work pretty good. It's okay if they're still a little shiny. That's not a problem. Now, if you have a food processor, you can do this in your food processor with the help of an adult too. I've just finished grating about 1.5 cups carrots, and it's hard to tell sometimes from the outside of the measuring cup, so if you peek on the inside, you can look for the 1.5 line on the inside of your cup and make sure you're filled up. It took me just about 2 full-size carrots, big-size carrots, to get 1.5 cups, so it doesn't take a whole lot. But once you're done doing that, you're gonna just go ahead and add it into your mixture and stir it well together with your spatula. You can get a fork out too if you find that helps you blend your carrots together. I grated my carrots so that they were kind of in long strips. You could also use the other side and make it really little tiny bits. Okay, once everything's well blended, you're going to add them into your cupcake liners, and we're gonna stick it in the oven for about 20 minutes. You'll wanna check on them with your individual oven to see if that does the trick for you. Okay, once you have your cupcake liners about halfway to 3/4 cup full on those pan liners, you're gonna bake for about 20 minutes. After about 20 to 25 minutes, your cupcakes should look something like this. You'll know that they're ready. They look, moist and golden and delicious, but not too wet, like they're undercooked. And then you're just gonna let those sit and cool for 5-10 minutes. This is a great time if you decided to make your own cream cheese frosting. You could be making that right now. And then I'm gonna frost them. I think I'm gonna take them out of the cupcake pan in a minute and set them out and then frost them. Okay. Once you're certain your cupcakes are cooled off enough that they're not gonna melt your frosting and make them all gloopy gloppy, unless you like them that way, you can start frosting them. You can either use a rubber spatula if you like, Spider-Man to the rescue again. I'm just gonna use a butter knife because I find that a little easier to spread frosting. Once your cupcakes are all frosted, as mine are, then you can be creative and add some sprinkles, or you can add some shaved coconut if you like that. I've got these nice orange sprinkles. I'm just gonna add a little bit of orange sprinkles to my cupcakes. And there you have it, carrot cake cupcakes that look really ooey gooey and delicious. I started frosting mine when they were still a little warm, so it's a little bit runny, but it tastes great. I hope you had a lot of fun with us today, and I hope you'll come back again very soon to go on another of Cosette's Enchanted Journeys. Until then, we'll see you later.